I stumbled through the door at 2:17 a.m., face slick with the last ember of the evening's numbers and spreadsheets, and the stale scent of printer ink still clung to my clothes. My boots thudded against the hardwood as I set my blazer on the hallway hook and flicked on the kitchen light. The tiny bourbon-stained kitchenette, our creative space, as Olivia liked to call it, felt eerily still except for the faint hum of Olivia's laptop, its screen open to a file named, "Goodbye, My Love, Rough Demo." My heart seized, and my hands trembled as I lifted the mug that still held cold coffee. I took a tentative sip, bitter liquid sliding down my throat, and turned toward the laptop. A single click in her voice, haunting, raw, too intimate, filled the room. "You have to set me free, love / though it breaks my heart in two / I'm singing goodbye, my love / because I can't live without you." The words struck me like a downed lightning bolt. In that instant, the coffee mug fell from my grip, shattering on the floor in slow motion, steam rising from the splintered ceramic like a final exhale. My pulse rocketed, sweat prickled the back of my neck despite the cool October air wafting through the cracked window. I leaned into the counter, fingers pressed into the grain of the wood, trying to steady my racing thoughts. How long had she been hiding this from me? How long had Olivia's late-night vocal sessions at RCA Studio be morphed into something else entirely? I rifled through the open file tabs, a Pro Tools session labeled Olivia and Ryan, live broadcast rehearsal, a folder named Hotel Track _Nashville, and another called Haze Room Lyrics. The lyrics scrolled across the screen, each line a dagger. My mind flashed back to the early days, the ecstatic rush of hearing her angelic harmonies as she recorded Backroads Blues downstairs, the gentle squeeze of her hand as we drifted off to sleep in our Nashville loft. We had danced under neon lights at the Bluebird Cafe, laughed over burned pancakes at our favorite diner, and marveled at the golden glow of Music Row at dusk. I'd thought we were living a dream, her talent shining, my accounting stable, until this moment of shattering betrayal. The kitchen's fluorescent bulb flickered overhead, casting long shadows that swayed like ghosts across the cracked vinyl floor. I searched for her in the apartment, no sign of boots at the door, no scent of her signature lavender shampoo. The silence felt suffocating. I closed the laptop, hands shaking as the last note faded into empty sound. I scrolled through her open calendar, 8 p.m., final vocal mix with Ryan Blake. 10 p.m., Hotel Melody Room. I'd been oblivious, trusting her every excuse, "It's just an overlay," or "He's a new cover artist, he needs my harmonies." But this demo file exposed more than a simple collaboration, it exposed whispered promises and midnight confessions neither of us had shared. The clock on the microwave blinked 2:22 a.m., its green digits mocking me. I pounded a fist on the counter, shards of coffee mug spatters at my feet. My chest tightened, breath catching in my throat. All around me, the apartment that once felt like home, our wedding photo above the mantel, the pastel-painted crib still tucked in the corner, now felt alien, a stage set for a performance I'd never auditioned for. The demo loomed large, its title searing itself into my mind, "Goodbye, My Love." Goodbye, to me, to us, to every sunrise we'd planned. I grabbed my phone from the counter and dialed Ryan Blake's number on instinct, but voicemail picked up. My trembling thumb dialed Olivia's extension at the studio, no answer. Panic flared as I realized the full extent of what I was uncovering. This rough demo existed just days before her debut solo EP was set to drop. The record label, A&R pitch, the interviews, the press buzz, it all hinged on her pristine image as a session singer stepping into the spotlight. Now her career, and our entire life together, hung by a frayed lyric. I stormed out of the kitchen, boots pounding down the hallway, knocking over a stack of lyric sheets Olivia had taped to our living room wall. I snatched her notebook off the coffee table, flipping through pages of song titles and chord progressions, love ballads I thought were meant for me. Each scribbled note felt like a broken vow. I stuffed the notebook into my jacket pocket, snagged my keys off the counter, and fled into the humid Nashville night, the hum of traffic and distant sirens merging into a dirge of betrayal. On the sidewalk, the October air bit at my cheeks as I wrestled with a single, blistering purpose: I wouldn't let her career, or mine, survive this deceit. As the neon sign of RCA Studio B glowed like a beacon of shared dreams gone sour, I resolved that come dawn, I would expose every whispered promise, every midnight syllable. The city's hum felt deafening as I hailed a taxi, Michael Thompson, accountant by trade and now avenger by heartbreak, determined to bring Olivia's world crashing down before her EP could ever see sunrise. I remember the first time Olivia sang for me in our living room, an impromptu performance that felt like daylight breaking through a storm. I'd come home from a late night crunching numbers at the firm, exhausted, but the moment I heard her voice, soft, luminous, effortless, everything else melted away. She was on her tiptoes, swaying in our tiny Nashville loft, arms wrapped around the neck of a borrowed guitar, harmonies spilling from her like moonlight over the Cumberland River. I stood in the doorway, briefcase in hand, and watched her eyes close as she sang lyrics I'd never heard before, "Find me where the river meets the sky / I'll be dancing in your lullaby." When she opened her eyes, they sparkled with a mixture of pride and vulnerability, and she set down the guitar to hand me a mug of coffee, strong, dark, and steaming. "I think I'm ready for RCA," she said, voice trembling. I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of lavender shampoo and syrupy melodies, and I believed her. From that night forward, our lives became a harmonious duet. I balanced ledgers and tax returns as she balanced vocal harmonies and recording sessions. Our mornings began with slow coffee on the balcony overlooking Music Row, where the sunrise painted the skyline in pink and gold as streetcars clattered below. Olivia would cradle her latte and draft lyrics on napkins for a solo EP she dreamed of releasing, while I pored over spreadsheets, scribbling numbers in the margin. We took weekend drives to the Bluebird Cafe, where we watched and signed singer-songwriters ply their hearts out under dim lights. I'd rest my head on her shoulder and whisper, "One day they'll whisper your name," and she'd smile, squeezing my hand. When she got the call from RCA Studio B, that official audition request, I felt like I'd won the lottery. Olivia flipped on the phone itself, practically glowing as she read the email aloud, "Your vocal timbre is exactly what we need for the upcoming live broadcast." She shrieked, nearly dropping her phone in excitement. We danced around the apartment, toasting with sweet iced tea, dreaming aloud about the Nashville Spotlight broadcast and the chance to catapult her voice into the stratosphere. I agreed to cut back on my accounting hours that month so I could drive her to the studio for early morning tracking sessions. We fell into a rhythm. I'd drop her off at dawn, she'd lay down harmonies at RCA through the morning golden hour, and I'd pick her up at noon to hear her giddy playbacks over the car stereo as we grabbed lunch at White's Mercantile. Her excitement became mine, and I believed every smile, every lyric, every promise. But as her work grew with the studio, small cracks began to show up in the facade of our morning duets. It started with her staying late after a mixdown session, claiming just a few more tweaks to vocal levels. She'd wave from the windshield before racing back to RCA's brick facade, and I'd head to the office to log another late night. One evening, I stopped by her parents' house for a surprise visit. Her mother asked if I was there to pick up Emma, but Olivia was nowhere in sight. I found her packing coffee beans into a canvas tote, prepping for overnight work at a mix lab. When I asked, she flashed an apologetic grin. "There was a mic glitch on my solo track," she said. "Can't risk the EP release next week." I nodded, biting back my concern. By then, her EP, titled Rising Hearts, was weeks from launch. She felt the pressure, and I told myself trust meant letting her steer her own course. Next came the odd receipts taped to the fridge, 2 receipts for late-night coffee runs at Hart Street Coffee Roasters, one at 11:03 p.m., another at 1:17 a.m. I asked about them that Sunday when I returned from a 14-hour stretch at the firm. Olivia leaned against the counter, her espresso jacket slung over a paint-splattered tee. "I was working with Lucas," she said, motioning to her laptop's top tab, designing the album art mock-up. "Lucas?" I echoed. She nodded. "He's a graphic designer RCA hired to mock up my EP cover. We needed caffeine for our all-night brainstorm." I felt a bruise bloom under my ribs, but I kissed her forehead and said, "I'm proud of how hard you're working." A quick white lie, I realized later, there was no Lucas. Then I noticed how often a name kept slipping past her lips when she thought I wasn't listening. "Ryan's playing me a new riff. Ryan wants to meet after the last session." I'd sneak upside-down glances at her phone when she napped, half caught in the glow of its bright screen, a preview of a text that read, "Perfect chord progression, meet me at the studio rooftop." I shook it off, rationalizing the studio rooftop as a local venue, a place hired for acoustics. But when I searched Ryan Blake on the Nashville A&R boards, I found a charismatic cover artist with a silver tongue for love ballads and a past laced with rumors of backstage liaisons. One Wednesday morning I found her under-equipped for a supposed vocal warm-up, no sheet music, just a blank tablet, and a coffee-stained notepad filled with lyrics titled Midnight Sonata, referencing Your Shadowed Touch. I confronted her between sips of latte. What's this? I traced a line, your lips like the moonlight on mine. Olivia froze as if struck. She bit her lip, then flipped the notebook closed. It's just a song idea, she said, voice wavering. For my EP. I need raw material. But when I pressed, whose touch, live, her eyes flickered to the floor. Studio inspiration, she said. She slid the notepad under a stack of promotional flyers, but I felt my trust fray. Despite everything, I clung to the moments of doubt as anomalies, excuses to keep believing in the future we planned. We shared weekends on Music Row after my shifts, sneaking glimpses of neon signs and scribbling down song titles that might one day become hits. While she recorded demos in the morning, I balanced the books. While I balanced the books, she balanced her harmonies. I waxed poetic to her about how the world would soon know her name, and she smiled, brushing a hand through her tangled curls. I still loved her. I wanted to trust her. I believed her when she said, Nashville's my home, and you're my anchor. But every time the studio called for late-night overdub sessions or producer feedback, a flicker of unease pulsed in my chest. Each time she assembled a canvas of lyric ideas with scribbles in her handwriting, I wondered if those words were directed at me or someone else. When the cover of Rolling Stone Country featured her as one of the 10 rising voices of Nashville, her eyes gleamed, but I noticed them shadowed, ears tuning for feedback, heart tuning for someone other than me. Those glittering pages felt like gilded cages, locking her away from the home we built. The final crack came the day I discovered the unaired rehearsal footage, Olivia and Ryan recording a duet for the Nashville Spotlight broadcast, their faces a breath apart, hips swaying in tandem. Their hands brushed over mic cables as if rehearsing affection as well as harmony. When Ryan's arm slipped around her waist, her eyes fluttered shut and she leaned in, singing, I found my missing chord in you. I sat in the cafe where I thought she was working, staring at my phone's screen, watching Betrayal unfold in high definition. They were alone in an empty studio, harmony colliding into temptation. That was the moment I realized our duet had ended, and hers had just begun, with someone else's melody. I woke before dawn, the rough melody of Midnight Sonata, echoing in my mind as I tiptoed past Emma's crib, careful not to wake her. The dim glow of our Nashville loft street lamp filtered through gauzy curtains while I retrieved Olivia's laptop from the coffee table and navigated to the Goodbye, My Love, rough demo file. My pulse spiked as I transferred it to a USB drive labeled Exhibit A, Infidelity Evidence. Each lyric struck me like a blow. I'm singing goodbye, my love / because I can't live without you. In that moment, all her late-night vocal sessions crystallized into Betrayal. I spent the next hour combing her files, folders titled Live Broadcast Rehearsal, Hayes Room Lyrics, and Hotel Track _ Nashville, and uncovered notes annotated RB indicating Ryan Blake's involvement. I captured timestamps linking their recording sessions to hotel reservation logs on our shared cloud calendar, Exhibit B, RCA session logs, Exhibit C, hotel reservation PDF, 4/15/16, and, Exhibit D, lyric annotated screenshots. My breath jagged in the hush of early morning as I zipped these proof files into an archive named evidence_for_jt.zip. I felt my heart tighten, our duet had ended, and the song she'd written was for someone else. By first light, I'd assembled every shred of evidence into a binder, determined to confront the truth. I called my brother Christian, family law attorney in Brentwood, who invited me to his office that afternoon. Over black coffee, I laid out my binder, USB drive, printouts, lyric notebooks. Christian nodded gravely. This is irrefutable. You can file for divorce on grounds of adultery. I'll prepare a petition and a motion for temporary orders. Custody of Emma must be your immediate priority. He outlined a plan: request an emergency hearing to grant me primary physical custody, open a separate checking account for Emma's expenses so Olivia couldn't divert funds, and issue a cease and desist to RCA, citing Olivia's breach of her contract's morality clause. He advised me to seek an injunction preventing Ryan from profiting off any song that used Midnight Sonata or Goodbye, My Love, arguing that songs composed during an affair should be disqualified from commercial release. By the time I left his office, I had a detailed checklist: file divorce petition and temporary orders, open Emma Thompson Trust at PNC Bank, draft cease and desist for RCA and Ryan Blake, compile a value assessment of Rising Hearts EP for potential damages, schedule Emma's first counseling session with Dr. Laura Mendel. On the drive home, I called PNC and opened a sole owner checking account named Emma L. Thompson Trust, transferring half our savings into it and activating withdrawal alerts. Holding the embossed checkbook folder, soft leather stamped ET Trust, I felt both empowered and hollow. Protecting Emma was my singular mission now. That evening, after tucking Emma into bed, her small size a reminder of innocence, I met Dr. Laura Mendel in her Franklin office, where soft-toned walls offered solace. She welcomed Emma with a stuffed bunny and opened a file, scheduling weekly play therapy and individual sessions for me to manage grief and anger. She handed me a Parenting Through Divorce workbook before I left, her kindness a balm for my battered heart. At midnight, I drafted the divorce petition under Cause Number 24, DR 04562, in the Chancery Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, in re. The marriage of Olivia Grace Thompson and Michael James Thompson, citing adultery and breach of marital trust. Each keystroke solidified my resolve. I attached exhibits, evidence _for_jt.zip, printouts, Dr. Mendel's referral letter. By 2 a.m., I hit submit, and a confirmation pinged, case filed, filing fee received. In the days that followed, I provided a process server with instructions to serve divorce papers at Riley's Bar and Grill, where Olivia often gathered with RCA friends, to ensure she faced those she'd betrayed. I anonymously leaked "Goodbye, My Love" rough demo to every Nashville music blog and journalist, branding her Nashville's Fallen Dove. Record labels canceled her deal, and RCA acknowledged my cease and desist with a terse email. Late that week, I filed for temporary orders in person, handing documents to the clerk, petition, motion for temporary custody, and financial affidavits. The judge signed them. Emma would live with me in our Belmont apartment until further notice, and Olivia would have only supervised visitation at her parents' home. Relief flooded me, mingled with sorrow. That night, I cradled Emma on our worn blue couch, her soft snores a lullaby against my ache, and posted a message on my blog, Sunrise Salvations, in the wake of broken oaths, I rise for my daughter. Here's to new beginnings. By dawn, comments arrived, shared experiences of betrayal, words of encouragement from fellow parents. As the October sun rose over Nashville, I brewed strong coffee and gazed out at RCA Studio B's neon glow, a reminder of the dream Olivia nearly realized and the harmony she shattered. Yet in that misty morning light, I felt a tremor of hope. Our story had shifted from a duet to a solo of truth and renewal, one sunrise at a time. I arrived at RCA Studio B just before 5 p.m., the dusk sky casting a golden glow on the historic brick facade. Producers milled about near the loading dock as Olivia reheated vocal runs inside. I slipped past security, my press pass still valid from helping with Emma's youth music showcase, and reversed my steps to the green room where she lingered before tonight's live broadcast segment. Through the half-open door, I saw her seated at a makeup station, eyes rimmed red, hair pinned back. Her reflection looked frightened in the vanity mirror. I stepped in, closing the door behind me. "Michael," she whispered, voice cracking. I set my briefcase on the counter and exhaled. "I need you to hear me out," I said, pulling out the USB drive. She swallowed, a tremor running through her shoulders. I tapped my finger on the drive's label, Exhibit A. "Give me 1 minute," I said as I inserted it into her laptop, one she thought contained only demos for her EP. The screen lit up with file names, "Goodbye, My Love, rough demo." I double-clicked. As the opening chords echoed in the small green room, Olivia winced. "Michael, please," she began. I cut her off, voice steady. "Listen to the lyrics. I'm singing goodbye, my love, because I can't live without you." Those were written for him, not me. My words hovered between us like a dagger's tip. She averted her gaze, cheeks flushing. "It's not what you think," she whispered. I scrolled through the lyric sheet and clicked on the Hayes Room Lyrics folder. "Look at these annotations," I said, pointing to lines marked R.B. Ryan wrote these chords. "You weren't alone in the studio." She flinched as though struck. I continued, voice barely above a whisper that shattered her composure. "Then there are the hotel logs, Exhibit C, Hotel Track _Nashville, April 15th, 4 out of 16. Late night bookings at the Franklin Suites, billed to your RCA advance. You said you were working on mixing. In reality, you were writing love ballads with Ryan in a bed I paid for." Her eyes glistened with tears. "Olivia, I believed every excuse, the paint smudges, the coffee runs, the graphic designer Lucas, who doesn't even exist. But none of that excuses this betrayal. My hand hovered over a framed photograph on the vanity, our wedding portrait, captured under a white canopy in July sun, smiles radiant. I lifted it, turning it face down on the counter. This was supposed to be our forever, I said. Now it's a broken promise. She sank onto the stool, shoulders hunched, as "Goodbye, my love" played on loop. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out the divorce petition, cause number 24, DR 04562, in the Chancery Court of Davidson County. I flipped it open to the grounds for adultery. I filed this at noon, I said, laying the pages beside the photograph. I've also served for exclusive custody of Emma, as per temporary orders. You'll have supervised visits at your parents' home beginning tomorrow. Olivia's lips quivered. Michael, Emma, she began, tears spilling. I held up a hand for silence. Don't. I pressed a sealed envelope onto the counter, Exhibit D, cease and desist to RCA and Ryan Blake, the letterhead resting like a stark sentinel. Record labels cancelled, Rising Hearts 5 minutes after they received this. Ryan's barred from profiting off any track connected to you. Tonight's broadcast was cancelled, and your contract is suspended indefinitely. She collapsed against the vanity, sobs trembling through her frame. I watched her for a moment, my own breath ragged. Then I turned to leave, pausing at the door. You once sang that your voice would carry hope through shadows, I said quietly. Instead, your chords dripped with deceit. I slipped out, leaving her crumpled among broken dreams and shattered recordings. As the green room door swung shut behind me, the final note of "Goodbye, my love" faded, and I stepped into the Nashville night, my heart heavy, but my resolve absolute. The next morning, I signed the final divorce decree in the Davidson County Courthouse, Olivia relinquishing all claims to our Belmont apartment and agreeing to supervised visitation only at her parents' home. I retained primary physical custody of Emma, and Olivia's RCA contract was voided for breach of morality. The judge inked each signature, and suddenly the courtroom felt both confining and merciful, my daughter's future secured, our marriage settled in cold legal script. Back at our apartment, now furnished with second-hand finds, a besieged IKEA crib in the corner, a hand-me-down rocking chair for late-night feedings, I watched Emma chase shadows of morning light across the hardwood floor. Her laughter, buoyant and unburdened, anchored me. I gathered up the documents, Exhibit A, infidelity evidence, the petition, the temporary orders, and filed them in a battered blue binder labeled, Emma's Future. The stack felt weighty with both grief and relief. I resumed my volunteer duties at the Franklin Youth Music Camp, teaching disadvantaged kids to write honest lyrics. One afternoon, I set up a faded digital piano under a pavilion draped in autumn leaves and invited a group of teens to join me. Music should be truth, I told them, fingers searching for middle C, say what you mean and mean what you say. A girl named Sophia shyly strummed a G chord and whispered, "This one's for my mom, who left last year." I nodded, offering her a small, encouraging smile. In guiding their raw verses about family and loss, I found catharsis for my own shattered duet. On weekends, Emma and I took slow walks along the Cumberland River, my old steadfast path to the firehouse. She toddled ahead, collecting river rocks, and I let the soft currents murmur explain what words could not. Life flows forward. Later, I'd sit with her on the porch swing, sipping coffee that Olivia once brewed for me, marveling at the resilience of dawn. One crisp Friday evening, the caretaker at RCA Studio B offered me an unused slot to record a spoken word track for the youth camp's benefit album. I crafted a short piece titled, Finding My Melody, reflecting on betrayal, accountability, and the power of new beginnings. As I spoke into the mic, Emma's laughter faint on the playback, I felt a sliver of peace, my truth, untainted by heartbreak, transformed into something that might help others. Months later, I stood at the youth camp's winter showcase, Emma curled in my arms as the first snowflakes drifted over Franklin. I watched young voices rise, fearless and raw. Then I capped the evening by walking backstage and slipping, Finding My Melody, onto each child's CD sleeve. Their wide eyes registered curiosity and hope, a reminder that even in Nashville's vast cacophony, an honest single note can change a life. In that moment, with Emma smiling against my chest and the camp stage glowing behind me, I realized our song had shifted from a painful solo into a new chorus of resilience, one melody at a time.